Hey everybody, Eric here from the MMG. Welcome to our channel. Happy to be bringing you more coverage of Noble Legacy, and I'm going to bring you a beginner's guide, a walkthrough. And I highly recommend you do the tutorial here in Noble Legacy because it kind of walks you through this a little bit, but it doesn't give you all of the details. And so I'm going to kind of fill in the gaps and help you kind of understand why you're doing what you're doing and some of the more sophisticated systems in the game that aren't super well explained in the tutorial. But I do always recommend you start the tutorial, but you could follow this guy using the sandbox as well, because I'm going to help you get a good base down and get you in a place that you want to be. All right, everybody. Now, if you don't want to do the tutorial and you're just starting out, some of this stuff is going to be very important for you to get started with. And the first one I'm going to mention is actually when you load into your new kingdom, you're going to see if you hit the P key, that gives you an overview of the map. You're going to see resources around you. And in front of you, not too far ahead, you're going to see a great little starting spot for a town. Let me run up to it here real quick. That's where you want to build your first town. You can run around and explore the map. The map is actually very large. I think I ran for 10 or 15 minutes. And I did find another spot that was kind of suitable for a town, but it took a long time. And you can build anywhere, but you just have to be very careful about the resources because you don't want to build away from resources. That's what you're going to need to grow your village. So now that I'm up closer, you can see the spot. There's actually even an outline where a village could be put, which is really cool. You don't have to follow that outline. You can build anywhere you want, like I said. Most important thing, though, is the resources. You can see this area here is resource rich. It's got everything we could really need here. For some reason, berries do not show up on this overview map. I don't know if that's going to be changed, but you'll see there's berry bushes, and they look like this right here. Here's a berry bush. You're going to need those. That's one of your first food supplies. So yeah, this is where I recommend you start building. I do want to mention on your run in, make sure you cut down a couple trees. You're going to need that to get started with your village. I'm going to run back here. This is kind of tip number 2, but you want to cut down some trees. Now, how it works when you actually put down a lumber mill, your wherever you put that down, it has a radius around it of where your villagers will go and harvest resources. So that's why I say kind of cut them down on your way into town. That way you're not cutting into those resources necessarily. It's not a big deal. Trees do regrow kind of slower over time, and I've never really ran out of trees, but just as a precaution, cut them down on your way into town. You'll see in the bottom down there, it shows you how much of the resources left. We have one, and there I've cleared out that tree. You just have to hit E once. You don't have to hold it down, which I really, really like. There's really no mechanic here, no game. It's just resource gathering, and you're not going to be doing this a lot, so I actually like this approach because I'm not going out and cutting down trees all the time. Once this is like the very first building I'm going to put down, and then I'm going to bring in an NPC to actually do this for me pretty quickly. So there's an occasional time here and there where early on in the game where you'll just be building like crazy and you might run out of logs. You might have to go assist the NPC, but it's pretty rare to be honest. So all right, so we got those trees gathered, and the next tip is obviously the first building you want to build is your lumber mill by far. You do want to place it near trees, but not too far away from your main city, because there is a storage house where your NPCs will actually go and collect the resources and bring back. And there's a radius, I think it's 200 meters right now, so everything has to be within 200 meters basically to get stored into your storehouse. And so I have a pretty good tree growth back here. I have some back here. I could put it either place is going to be fine, to be honest. I think I'm going to put mine over here. I'm going to hit the F key, go to my build menu, and bring out the foundation for it. I do want to mention if you don't like building at all, there is a bunch of free prefabs in the game, and you can actually download them from the Steam Workshop. That's going to be my next thing. If you actually don't want to worry about the building thing, like we have a bunch of MMG prefabs down to pretty much get your village started. So there's a gathering hut. You can use that for wood or for berries, whatever you want. I'm gonna just pop this down real quick just to show you guys how easy it is. And I built this and designed it and all that stuff. So I'm gonna put it so we can see the front of it here, and put it kind of not quite in the woods, but right near the edge, right? Maybe right there. There we go. And now this is our wood gather. Now I will mention I did this to make it look better. You don't need three log piles like I have here. I just thought it looked cool. But yeah, there's that, and then here's our refined lumber for crafting. All right, once you have all your planks, and hopefully you still have enough lumber from your first tree cutting down experience there, you should be able to put down your forger hut. Now again, you can craft your own and not use the prefabs, which could use a lot less resources, but you can see right here, this is what the forger hut, the base when it comes with the game, looks like. And you could also technically put down my prefab here. the gathering hut, which only uses wood, as you can see. So it uses a lot less resources if you want. It's not that hard to do, and then you just take out the wood piles, well, however you want to do it. Now this one's a little bit nicer, uses a lot more pieces, has a higher structure value. It'll be easier to upgrade. So that's why we're just going to take our time and do it and put it right here in between these berry bushes. There we go. Now we have our forger hut down. This is what it looks like. All right, next thing you want to put down is actual houses, so villagers will start coming to your village. So I have a prefab here for a very basic house. This is just a tier 1 currently. You can upgrade it pretty easily to get to tier 2 if you want. And I actually have a tier 2 house right here if you just want to put down a tier 2, but that takes a little more resources. You can see 40 wood planks. But this tier 1 only takes 2 wood planks, 15 lumber. It's easy to put down. And that's what I have right here. And then all you need to put down in here is a bed. Again, this is tiny. We're going to go to furniture. When you put down the main piece, it's what actually makes it a house, so that makes sense. All right, now we got a bed down there. Now it is officially a house. Now you just need to hit K, go up to the recruits tab, and now you have people you can bring in to actually help you do work in the village. Only one of them is basic. The rest of them all have these requirements that we haven't met yet, or 2 of these have requirements that we can negotiate with. 2 of them have requirements that we haven't met. It'll tell you right there what it takes. The tavern for that one, tavern for this one. So we can bring in Abigail. She is a barfly and a flirt. If you scroll over to kind of tell you what that does, spends free time at the tavern, gives opposite gender coworkers plus 10 morale. Give members of the same gender -5 morale. So you just have to make sure you know where you put her. She's a great starting NPC for sure. And you do want to be careful with your bids. You also want to be cautious of your money. You only have 300 coins. But if you low bid and they decline, well, then you lose out on them. So we don't want to do that with Abigail. She's a winner. We're going to do it maybe right there. And she's recruited. So, okay, we brought on 2 new people. So now that we have people in our village, we hit the K menu and we go to buildings. And you're going to see your buildings. First off, you need to do is you need to assign them a house. Tier 1 houses can have 2 people in them. So we're going to put Edward and Abigail together in that house so they have a place to live. And then you come down here. This is where you make them work. So we have Abigail here, making her a lumberjack. So now that she's working that, she'll start cutting down wood on her own and storing it there. Now, the next thing we need to do is actually build our storehouse so we can put our other villager to work. He was a higher class, he was a noblesman, so he won't do any of the peasant level work. All right, the next step is to put down your storehouse, and this is one of the most important buildings in your village, and you want it to be very centralized because there's a radius around it that NPCs will go to collect the resources. So be cautious, look at your overhead map with the P key, see where your water is, see where your other stuff is. If you look at this village, the way it's laid out, really right here is centralized. This is where I'm going to put it. See, the village is kind of spread out a little bit weird, but it's a pretty small area, so I'm not really too worried about any of it. And that way I can make sure I'm getting the fish and the resources over here on this side of the pond as well. So that's where we're going to put it. So again, you can do a prefab or you can build it yourself. There's a wonderful prefab here for the storage house that the developers have supplied, and I like it a lot. I'm going to use it. Try to get it centered here. Lower just a notch. There we go. Now we have our storehouse. Main piece in the storehouse that you need. Now, for this particular prefab for the storehouse, it's actually missing the piece that it needs. So you're going to have to put that in there here. So if you want to go to production and then scroll to services, sorry, if you want to go to services and then scroll up to market storage, this is actually the main piece for your storehouse. So I'm going to put it over here. We go. Now we see the second piece we need is a market ledger. So we go in here and it is right actually beside merchant's ledger, right beside the market storage. Put it right there. Go. And now we actually have our storehouse, which is perfect. So now Edward has a place to work. So like he was a tradesman, so he didn't want to do the littler jobs, but he will do these jobs. I'm actually going to put him in as a porter first because that's when he carries supplies back and forth. Because right now we don't have the merchant stall, which is the next thing we're going to build. So next tip is a merchant stall. It's how you actually start bringing money into your village. It's very, very important. And this one isn't, you don't need a building for it. It's actually an outside structure. So if you just click here to the build option, you'll see it here in outdoors, the farm stall. It's what you want. And I'm just going to put it I think actually no, I'm gonna put it right here. I feel like it's a good spot for it. Doesn't take up a lot of space. It's near the road. Now we have that, and now we can actually start selling. So go up to it and hit E, and you can see you can start selling resources right here. So right now all we really have is lumber. So I'm gonna unexit there and put a check there, and then I don't want it to actually sell all. I want to keep like probably 20 lumber at least, and then wood planks is another thing that we can start selling, and I'm gonna do the same thing with it. Put it at like at least 20. Might want to make that higher. Just depends on what your goals are, but you do want to start making money early on. So it also would not hurt to to sell all and just go out and get more resources as you need them. So, and now to do it, if I need to open market storage here, and I'm going to plop this stuff in here that I have, and now potentially visitors will come and buy those things. The main thing they really want though is food. So let's see if we have some new recruits. We do. We have one here, and Andy's a peasant, which is perfect. He actually works better with a male co-worker, and he likes to visit the tavern a lot. Sometimes can get into fights. That's fine. This is the perfect guy to be our first gatherer. We're going to make him an offer he cannot refuse, and now he's joined the group. And now I'm going to put him in as the forager spot, and we're going to start gathering food and mushrooms, I think. All right, the next tip is don't start upgrading structures early on because you're going to run out of money really quick. You want to save that money to bring in new recruits, and some structures actually take that money as well to put down. So when you open the K and you go to buildings, you're going to see these little up arrows like for the woodcutter and for the forger. Forger is a free upgrade right now. If it stays that way, that's fine. You can upgrade that one, no problem. But the woodcutter actually costs 100 gold, and I would recommend you wait. Just wait on that. You want that gold for more things later on. All right, now this is the point where we have most of the stuff down that we need to have in place. Now you can start to put houses down and start recruits to fill up the other open slots that you have for villagers to work. And then you're going to start to look like an actual village. You're going to see NPCs coming in. You're going to see the NPCs, the visitors basically buying stuff and you making money. Once you're to this point, I wouldn't say you're on auto, but you're not at risk like you would be, if that makes sense. So you have money coming in, you have all the base stuff down. Now, next thing I would work on is like a fishery personally because that gives you more things to sell and more food for your villagers. But outside of that, you can kind of start building and expanding on whatever you want to focus on. Obviously, if you want to build more stuff, you need to get better resources in, so you probably want to do a forge. And then, you start wanting to make bricks and iron and stuff like that. So but from this point on, it's kind of like however you want to play. After you have this base stuff down, you're in pretty good shape, and you can kind of do as you want. The next thing that I would really focus on is probably a library, because that's going to start getting you research in the research table to unlock more stuff. All right, the last thing I want to mention here in our guide is the status of your kingdom. If you open the main menu with the K key, you can see your kingdom here, and it shows you your current rank, your population, your visitors, kingdom value, morale overall, the food reserve you have, and then also your next rank, which would be Hamlet, and what you require to get to it, which is a basic tavern, is the only thing we're missing. So this is a great way to kind of focus on like long-term goals of leveling up to your next rank, but also a quick look at everything that's going on in your village. You can also adjust the economy prices here too. So this is kind of like the main menu. We can kind of do and see everything in a big overarching view of your village that you currently have. All right, everybody, that wraps up the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you're enjoying Noble Legacy as much as we are. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have yourself a great day.